Hey there, it's Katie Jarvis with Managing the Mess, and I'm a K-6 elementary art teacher. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I prep to do sewing with my elementary art students. As art teachers, we spend an enormous amount of time planning and preparing materials so that our students can be successful in our lessons. This video is actually a follow-up part 2. In part 1, managing the materials, I cover paint, student artwork, clay, and paper, so make sure that you also check that video out. I'll start off by sharing the materials that I use for sewing with students. I just use regular yarn. I tend to buy colored burlap, so either black or royal blue, just because I like how it pops on my student projects. I have this Sterilite drawers set up all the time so that sewing materials are ready to go. And I recommend getting short needles. There are longer ones that I'm going to show you, but these would be used for our weaving projects. The one that I'm looking for is like 2 or 3 inches, and you want really thick, durable plastic. When you're looking for these in an art supply catalog or on Amazon or something, you want to search for one with a large eye. That's the hole in the needle. And what's been coming up a lot are really affordable ones, like this, and this works, but I have found that they do bend. And if you buy them from like Amazon or Temu, they look like this. So you're gonna have to order a lot more of them. There is a big price difference. So when you're getting these really thick ones that are gonna last longer, they are gonna cost you more, but then you'll know you're getting the right ones. But lately, I've really had a difficulty finding these. And even when I've seen these in school specialty, which is where I do my ordering from, even when I've seen this in the picture, they were sending me something different. So just be warned, this is becoming harder and harder to find. I also have in this container birdies. Now birdies are just paper that I cut really small, and then we use this as a tool to get the yarn into the eye of the needle. To prep the burlap for sewing with students, I'm going to cut it 10 inches by 10 inches into a square. So what I like to do is unfold the burlap, and I use like a silver Sharpie to make my mark, and start off by just finding a straight line and evening out the end of it. And then making a mark every 10 inches. And I measure this at the bottom, in the middle, and then again near the top. And then I just go through the fabric and keep repeating that. I do have this doubled over, so I am cutting 2 at the same time. One thing that I wanted to try this year, I know some teachers are brave and they do try to cut this on the paper cutter. It kind of slips and slides, so I've never really tried that out. But I was thinking about trying these electric scissors. Up until this point, I have used them for cardboard, for tag board. I've also used them to cut paper bags when I was making snowflakes this winter, but I just charged them up and I was sort of curious to see, does it work for the burlap? So we shall try and I will report back. So yeah, I totally recommend this electric pair of scissors to help you cut the burlap. That made the job a lot easier. You can see though, it's really leaves a lot of mess when you do this. You probably want to cut all your burlap once and just clean up once. I will link these in the description down below. How I finish off the burlap is I put glue on the edges. So I take wax paper, and don't worry, you'll just need 1 roll because you can use both sides of the wax paper and you can reuse it again for other burlap that you're prepping. So I just cut little rectangles or squares that are bigger than the burlap. I dump some Elmer's glue into like an old container and then use a really big foam brush or a really wide paintbrush to just dab glue on the edges, the outside edges of the burlap. Now, this is not something that you have to do. Some people tape the edges. The edges will start to fray. And also, I like the glue because it makes the burlap stiff on the edges so the students can't put their needle through those outside edges. So I'm putting a lot of glue, just kind of globbing it right on there on those outer edges. Now, when I get this finished, what I'll do is just put these on the drying rack and they'll dry overnight, and then I'll be able to peel them off in the morning when they dry. So now it's the next morning and the glue has had a chance to dry. You just simply pull the burlap off and your students can start to sew. Either your students or yourself can trim up any glue that's sticking off the edge if that bothers you. But how I label them and how I label all my artwork is that I use name tag labels. So these would be pre-printed labels with the student's name on them on like Avery mailing labels. And for this project, because of course it's not going to stick to the burlap for long, I will stick it down in the corner and then I will just staple their name on there. That has their seat number, so it's easy for me to pass these out. It has their teacher name in case it gets mixed up with another class, and it has the student's name. So it would look like this when I pass it out to students. That's how I teach the students to use the birdie. The birdie simply, again, is just a piece of construction paper or tag board that I cut very small into a thin rectangle, and then students fold it in half so that it resembles a bird's mouth. And then I have the yarn pre-knotted for the younger grades. So like K1, 2 would have this already knotted like 3 times or a double knot on the end. And we ask the bird not to eat the side with the knot, but to eat the side of the yarn that looks like a worm. So they simply just put the worm inside the bird's mouth and then they pinch it closed and they hold it. So they're holding it in one hand and they're taking the side of the birdie that's folded and they're sliding that through the eye or the hole of the needle. So when they slide that through, they keep squeezing the paper and they pull it through just a little bit. And then I have them stop and show me that they have the yarn indeed inside the eye of the needle. The next step is that they make an X. So they take this little tail and they put it on top to create a loop and an X. And I think it's really best to have them set it down on the table and identify each step of this process so that they're able to do this independently. For these sewing projects, over and over and over, students have to put the different colors of yarn onto their needle. It's not something that you can help them with each time. It's something that they do need to learn how to do independently. So then they'll take this little tail and they're going to go underneath this loop. So they're going to come behind it and then pull it through. So I have them stop there again. And we call this step the pretzel. Once they get the pretzel, they're gonna pull the pretzel with both hands. So we say like, you're gonna grab the pretzel. So they grab the little tail part and the big long string here, and then they pull it tight, and then that creates the knot on their needle, and then they're ready to start sewing. Your students are ready to begin sewing. Have them lay their burlap flat and then start by going behind the burlap and poking the needle up like a little groundhog poking his head up out of the ground. I have them pull it all the way straight up to the ceiling and continue pulling until they have to stop because the knot makes them. And then I have them skip 3 or 4 squares that they can see there in the burlap, and then go straight down, lifting their burlap up off the table so they can pull it down. And that should create a straight line, not a loop, but a straight line there with their yarn. Then they're going to do the same thing again, skip 3 or 4 squares, come up from the bottom, and then go straight down. And these should be about the size of their fingernail. And you want to demonstrate how to do this, of course, but you also want to demonstrate what to do when there is a mistake, because inevitably someone's going to accidentally like go around the corner or go in the wrong hole or make one that's like way too big like this. And you want to show them how to unsew it as well as how to sew it. So if a student comes to you and they have a mistake like this, what you want to show them to do is to turn it over and take the sharp point of their needle and poke it right back into the hole where the mistake was. So they do need to look at it closely and slow down to do that so they get that exact hole, and then they can pull out their mistakes. Again, I shouldn't have gone into this hole here, so I'm going to go back this way, and then that's going to undo my sewing there from going around the corner. A game-changing tip for teaching sewing is to teach the pinch push method. So instead of students flipping around their burlap, you just have them pinch, make a little hill, and then push the needle right through that hill that they've created in the burlap, and then let it go, and then pinch ahead and push. I always get questions about how I differentiate for different grade levels. At kindergarten grade level, I don't exactly do sewing. I do more of what you would call lacing. So this year I did this Valentine's Day project. I have a YouTube short about it, and I also talk about it in my kindergarten art videos. What we did is we painted and did texture on 2 hearts, then we laminated them, hole punched them, and then students were lacing them together to create a little pocket to send home their Valentines. Now, what we did for this wasn't just regular yarn, it was tipped laces. I'll link this in the description down below, but it's like a little shoelace end on both sides of the yarn. So it's already ready to go for them, that it has that little pointed edge for them to do sewing. Now I do prep those by tying like a double or a triple knot on the end before they start the lacing. I do the same thing for my first graders, but I would use just regular yarn. We don't use the tip laces. In first grade, our project is that we sew a small rainbow. So these rainbow drawers work out really well, that I put all the prepped red yarn in the red yarn drawer, the orange in the orange drawer, and so forth. And what I said I did there was prep it by doing a couple knots on this side and then leaving this side open so that they could thread the needle themselves. Now, a hack for prepping the yarn is finding something that you can wrap the yarn around a bunch of times, and then you can only just cut the edges. So I'm going to show you on this stool handle how I would do that. For my older students, I don't prep the yarn. In the off season, in fact, it just looks like this. I buy class boxes of yarn so that it comes in a variety of colors. This one here is a neon pack. It ended up being kind of mini, so there's really small rolls. But the yarn that you can see inside these is on a cone, and I'll just put the cones inside these drink containers. I purchased these at the Dollar Tree, so I just put that inside of there. This also works if yarn is donated and it's on just like a regular roll of yarn. I fish the end of the yarn through where the liquid would come out, and then I close the container, and then just have students pull out how much yarn they need. Remember, ring that it should be about the length of their arm long, and that they need to leave a little tail so that the next student can pull out the color also without having to open it up. Now, what this helps is they can see what color is inside of there, and they're also not just cutting and hacking at the yarn so that you can't find the real end of the yarn and that you're left with pieces that are very, very small. I sure hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, make sure that you like and subscribe. I have over 150 videos on art room management to help make your job easier. I hope that you'll watch this video next.